It's bad enough Trump is his own worst enemy, but so are his apologists. And I say this with all due respect to many of those who were family and friends. And I also say this as someone who voted for Trump in 2020 also, though I didn't vote for him in 2016. Yet I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either, which is why I understand the frustration so many Americans have with the undeniable corruption from so many elected officials, and not just in the Democrat Party, but in the Republican Party as well. However, that frustration is being misfired and shooting people in the foot by thinking that Trump is the only person who can fight and stand against the swamp and the corruption that is making our cost of living so unaffordable. The corruption that leads to wasteful government spending, which leads to inflation, which leads to higher gas prices, higher medical bills, unaffordable housing, and so many other problems people pin their hopes on someone like Trump to fix. While the latest indictments regarding Trump's handling of classified documents in his Mar-a-Lago home, let alone his encouragement of January 6th, while these things may seem like a witch hunt, as Trump has crudely claimed, or a politicized prosecution, as Vivek Ramaswamy more accurately describes it, that's still not entirely true. I agree our government should not be using the Department of Justice to eliminate a political opponent so close to election time, but that's not entirely what's happening either. Trials take time, which is why you're innocent until proven guilty, at least in the United States. And while I'm no legal expert and much less a Democrat or Biden supporter, I am a U.S. citizen who is being negatively affected by our politics, so I have every right to call out what I see as a massive problem in the leaders we're choosing, especially since I can't legally run for president either. I would if I could. Which is why the major point I'm trying to communicate is that there is a dangerous collective blind spot by so many Americans who view Trump as if he is actually innocent of the indictments he's being charged. And we even have presidential candidates like Vivek Ramaswamy rushing to Trump's defense. And while Vivek may seem like he's making a very sound case for the defense of Trump in order for our nation to not become a third world banana republic, take it from someone like me whose family fled a third world banana republic such as Cuba after it was taken over by a murderous communist regime which turned that paradise island into a socialist tropical gulag. There are many parallels in Trump's behavior that are eerily similar to that of Fidel Castro and even Hugo Chavez from Venezuela.
You are a donkey, Mr. Danger. You are a donkey.
But though Hugo Chavez joined dictators and despots in a coalition of the unwilling, he kept selling America oil, and his own ideology was cloaked in such humor and Latin charm that it was often hard to say how serious he really was.
Chavez! You know I'm totally off script right now.
The president seemed to delight in scorching congressional Democrats.
Right now, we have people in Congress that hate our country.
He also mocked his former Attorney General, Jeff Sessions.
The Attorney General says, I'm going to recuse myself. And I said, why the hell didn't he tell me that before I put him in?
They all engaged in the same loud, bombastic, strongman demagoguery that somehow, someway appeals to many people in the public. They know how to dangle imaginary threats like carrots on a stick that trigger society's worst fears and ultimately make themselves seem like they're the only ones who can solve those problems. But Trump does not care about the fate of this country, and much less his loyalists and apologists, as much as he cares about himself. And to what degree he even cares about himself is debatable given the alarmingly appalling choices he has made since he was voted out of office. And that's what really bothers me about Vivek Ramaswamy, because I had high hopes for him, and he's clearly an above-average intelligent human being. However, although I can't prove this, I suspect Vivek is only coming to Trump's defense in order to win over the massive amount of Trump supporters that could win Vivek the election. It's also why so many other Republican candidates are mortified of speaking out against Trump, and in other words, basically lying by omission. It's also why, despite my agreeing with many of Vivek's policy recommendations, which you can find on his website while they're still there, I don't believe he is all about the truth that he claims on his homepage. I think he and other presidential candidates are being very disingenuous in their defense of Trump. Sure, it's arguable that Trump didn't break any laws on January 6th, since it was so unprecedented for any former president to have exercised such horrible judgment as to try and overturn an electoral college election count. But now that we know, it should be illegal for a former president, or any elected official for that matter, to pressure their vice president or subordinates to overturn an election. It should be illegal to encourage thousands of people to gather at the nation's capital or a state capital, not so much to voice their disagreements, but to basically intimidate other government officials from doing their job that they were elected to do. For anyone worried about the United States becoming a third world banana republic, that's precisely what this country will continue to slide into if we elect Trump as president again. Just because he had the common sense to remove many regulations that allowed businesses to operate more freely, and that he signed the Healthcare Price Transparency Act into law in 2019 among some of his better policy choices, that doesn't mean he's the only person who thinks that way. Just like a broken clock is correct twice a day, doesn't mean it's still not a broken clock. Trump is a tragically flawed individual that clearly had served a purpose to this country by winning the 2016 election. But after January 6, 2021, he has proven to be unfit for office. We need to make better choices regarding the people we elect for the highest office in our country before it becomes the third world banana republic we're now being made to fear. We can't be blinded by our justified frustrations with certain career politicians, such as Nancy Pelosi, for example, who still clings to power well into her old age because they're enriching themselves and turning their own districts like San Francisco into cesspools of homelessness and drug addiction. But Trump is not the antidote to Nancy Pelosi's level of duplicity and corruption. Trump is that himself. He's proven it time and again. He's turned on his own key supporters and even insulted them like a junior high school bully in public. His own employees are now facing indictment charges as well for their complicity in the handling of classified documents that all Trump had to do was turn them back over to the feds to avoid all this mess that he is now supposedly using MAGA funds to pay for millions of dollars in legal fees. Trump is the embodiment of all that is wrong with government and the narcissism that drives people to those positions of power and status. That's why he's his own worst enemy, and so are people who make apologies for him as if others can't see through their disingenuous attempts to achieve that same power for themselves. If I got anything wrong in this video, please let me know in the comments below. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for upcoming videos, and check out the links below for my original art and merchandise. And thanks for watching.